What's up, guys? It's Sunday, April 23rd. Quick video tonight. Just wanted to take a look at some stuff. First, I wanted to take a look at this chart here. Got some allergies today. Forgive me. I want to look at this real quick and see what we see. So we're red on the year so far, red for year to date. And I want you to realize that we have a high, low, lower high, lower low, lower low. It's still a lower low. It's still a lower low, even though we have higher highs here. So I want to kind of step back for a second and say it's reversing. It looks like a bull trend, right? However, we still have the overall arching theme here is high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, and we don't have an equal low yet. So I want to keep that in mind real quick before we get too bullish. Even if they came up to this 4,300 area, as long as we don't break the 4,300 area, it's just a lower high, right? So keep that in mind. I was thinking a lot about that tonight, mostly because stuff isn't working, and when stuff's not working, usually it's because we're at a top. And I said on Friday, I said it's an inside day. We don't want to be buying breakouts or selling breakdowns or shorting breakdowns. We want to be buying dips and selling rips, right? So let's look at stuff. Start with futures. Oh my gosh! Every single time, I swear to you. Start with futures. I've got a lot of junk on this, but let's see kind of what's going on here. I would kind of expect we have a gap down. The expectation is to come in and fill that gap, right? But it's also a sign. We talked about this last video with Tesla. Let's jump back to Tesla real quick. I'll put those lines back up later. But as you see right here, we kind of had a gap down. It was a break away from the trend, from the uptrend. This gap down here was a break away from the downtrend, and we got up, right? So today, as of right now, Sunday, we have a gap down. It's very possible that we come up and touch that and recapture this. Let's look at ES. Let's use this number on ES. The close was 41.57. So if you want to, it would be an extremely low risk place. If you're paying attention here, this is very low risk. It's 10 points. Short it tomorrow as long as we are under 41.57. That is the plan for this week. If we get back above 41.57, we still have a seller at 41.60 on that little bookmap tool and 41.65. If we recapture 41.65, then we have short term, we have high, low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, right? So short term, this is a weekly chart for this week. If we recapture 41.65, that would be this breakout area, right? See how this is a supply area, supply, and by supply I mean resistance, resistance, resistance. See, every time we get above 41.65 here, it stops, it pushes back down, it pushes back down, it pushes back down, right? So if we recapture that, then we can get one of these kind of candles, right? We can get one of these kind of candles. It might end up closing below it. But if we get above 41.65, then we can be bull. Up to 4,200 would be first, 4,240, and then 4,280 to 4,300 area, right? If we recapture 41.65. But that's not the plan as of right now. The plan is super tight stop 41.57, 41.675. If you want to be extremely technical, but 41.57, as long as we are under that, because we're still in an inside week, right? But as long as we are under 41.57, it's going to come down and retest the 50. And we talked about 39.40. 39.40 was a pretty big area of demand. And that would put in a relatively equal high and a higher low if we did that, if we came down here and then bounced, right? So I don't know what day that's going to be, probably the 2nd or the 6th, something like that would be the low, the next low, because we talked about the 6th being important. We have to keep that in mind too. On the 6th, whatever the candle closes on the day of the 6th is the direction we go, right? So it's possible that we just chop back around and we don't do anything until the 6th of May, but I don't know. I'm kind of thinking this trend might just be happenstance, and that's not actually a law of the market. So here's what we want to do right now is over 41.57, just sit and wait, because right now we got some buyers pushing back up, right, and we have higher lows at the point. So over 41.57, just kind of watch it for another bull run, because we'll have a lower low, and we can try to retest this area, especially if we recapture 41.65. What I'm probably going to keep doing is just keep adding every time we get to 41.65. Just keep adding, and then we'll slowly roll over, right? The gap down this weekend though makes me think it's going to come sooner than later. So let's that's the plan. Does that make sense? 41.57 is basically our bull bear line. Recapturing it, I'm just going to get out of puts and wait. Well, I swung puts. We put 404 puts on Thursday. We sold, and then I got back in on Friday for same price, and they're actually red right now. We got in at 50, and they're at 35, I believe. So small risk, $50 contracts. But just keep that in mind. The weekly chart is still bearish. The overall thing. So I was kind of overly bullish last week, and I said we're going to run up to this 4,300 area. 43.32 is our number. But the more I think about it, it's really not. It's until we actually put in a higher high, we still put in a lower low too, right? So I mean, technically, we're just going down. They're just killing time. They're just they're just putting time on just killing time. And if we get a move like that, that'd be a pretty legit, because remember we said we've been in this diagonal, whatever you want to call this, wedge, so we could get a move down, a fake out, and then pretty decent drop. And we don't want to miss that. So I don't know if I'm bearish just because I was bullish last week and nothing worked, and so I'm gonna try the opposite side, or if I actually am being honest and saying I think we're just still in a bear trend. But regardless, let's just keep it simple. 41.57, below it is bearish, above it we just wait. Above 41.65 we will we'll start thinking about another retest of this area. So what does that mean for SPY? This is why I didn't start on SPY, because my chart looks like this. But key numbers is going to be, so right now we're opening around here, right? It'd be like 411 area, and we know that was support, but we've already kind of broken it in futures. So let's look at this. Let's say let's actually go down to even smaller time frames here. So we're probably hanging out around 411 right now, you could say. So we got a line at 412.17. That was pretty important on Friday. If you look at this, we came up to it and sold off. Came up to it, we opened there and sold off in the after hours. So 412.17, 412.20 area. I don't know why I came up with 17, but anywhere in this area is going to kind of be our stop loss for puts. So if we open down here and we start to climb up and we break through it, then we know that gap down was probably a break away from this area, and we can start going higher. So 412.17, anything below it, we're going to hold off or hold our puts, and look for a move down to first area is 407, which at this point we'll see a bounce, but I don't know if it'll be that big, because we might get down to 405.90 area before we bounce. I have an alarm there for some reason. I don't remember why. But so we could get down there and then start to bounce away. But 407 is a reasonable target. And then the reason we were in 404 is because if we break that 405.77 area, we're going to be at 401 quickly. So if we're at 35 and we're at $3 in the money, that's 100%, a 10x win on that's not bad. So 412.17, over it, let's stay bull. Under it, let's stay bear. I have a list of things to look at real quick. Let's look at AI. AI was a loser. It was a winner and a loser because I held too long. It was a nice rip over our line, right? I said every time we get below 2264 area here, every time we get below it, they buy it back up, right? They've done a pretty good job of pushing this thing back up. So if we open above 2030, I would kind of expect them to come back and retest this 50, this falling 50, right? And if they could somehow break above it, then we can see our move. But right now we're out of it. We got back out when we broke there at break even. So let's keep an eye on this one still. I still like it because we do have major support here. And then again, the reason that is because of the weekly. We've got our 50 EMA buyers. So, anywhere around this area should be support, but again, we closed below that. So breaking below that, we could start seeing lows again, which would mean we'd have to get out of our robot stocks. If you look at this chart, it looks great to me, but again, we're not in a bull market, so it might not work. We held the 50 here. Every time we got below the 50, they bought it back up. See, they even bought it up a little bit. And we're retesting this trend line, this bull flag. So, as long as we stay above it, we can push up to that 35 area. That's where we're in our July contracts for 35, because ultimately that's your first resistance. But getting up above that, we got a pretty quick move to the 40 area. And robots, if there's a recession, my thought is payroll is the highest expense of a business. So if they can replace payroll with robotics and AI, they're going to do that. So that's kind of why I'm in IRBO. An IRBO, again, is an ETF made up of a bunch of stocks. If you want to look at that, RBO, Oh, um, holdings. You can go into one of these and just see what kind of stocks are in these, and you can pick your bullish ones out of there. Um, holdings. So KC, we talked about that one. That was a pretty good move that we were not in, but it still looks pretty good, right? From the long term. Check out this. This might be a good Monday one, especially if we do get above that 4165 area on SPY. Watch for a retest, and they're gonna start coiling like that again. So might be worth playing 8 calls. They might not even do that. It might just be, you got a low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low. So KC. So I'm saying it's kind of hard to tell which way the market's going right now. We don't know if we're reversing yet, or if this is all just a big fake out. KC, keep that one on watch. Meta. Now let's see what this one does, because this will be interesting. So here, see how this kind of touched the 50 and bounced. This is on the weekly chart. So I would kind of expect, to be honest, this is already curling up. They could come down and retest this area and be short-term bearish down to 183, which has been major support. And around 183, look for a nice bounce. So Meta, let's just kind of wait on that one and see. You can try to play puts on that down to 183 would be pretty safe. And 183, your stop loss would be this candle right here. So you get in around 183 on the signs of a bounce, and that might be a good long-term swing. I don't know why. I hate Facebook. It's stupid. They don't contribute to GDP at all. But the stock is saying it's bullish, so keep an eye on that. Spotify, I think, has earnings coming up. That one will be interesting. Same story, right? I mean, all these AI tech stocks and everything, they're all over the 50 again. So you kind of have to assume that they're bullish. Look for another retest of the 50 on the weekly. So short term maybe bear, but long term, as long as this is curling around, you could see pretty good moves back up. So keep an eye on Spot. Let's see when their earnings are. What day is this? Tuesday for Spotify. Let's look for that would be interesting, because here's where it's going to go, right? Let's take a look. Okay, earnings. Where do you see it going? Just from looking at this chart, where would be, in your opinion? You just look at the weekly and say, okay, in my opinion, if this was going somewhere, where would it go? Well, you've got a lot in this area, right? Here. There's a lot. That was the IPO. So that would be an interesting spot. You got a lot right here. So you could say 150, 147 area would be interesting, to just, it would likely come up to that area, 150, right? It's very possible. Another option would be to come down and retest the 50, right? And say, okay, this area is buyers. They got below it, they pushed it up, got below it, pushed it up, got below it, pushed it up, got below it, pushed it up. So what are we looking at? 114 area? I mean, that's not exact, but I'm just saying, anywhere in this general area, it could go, right? So this is how we play earnings. Then you say, okay, let's say craziness, right? Let's say craziness, and we get above this area. Where's it going to go next? Well, it's going to go right here. We got an area here, here. If you look at these candles, Say this was kind of a turnaround area. You've got, you can get even closer here. Let's say this is kind of an area, right? If you look over here, they didn't really test it, but they got a huge green candle. That was a green candle at one time, right? That was a huge buy order, and then they sold all the way off. So 184 is very possible. You know, we still have a little bit of a gap, I would say, in this area. So that would be a great place. 195. If we get to 195, so here's how we'll do earnings. You say, you know, you can lotto 180 calls, target 195. You could get 150 calls and hope you're right and get a great move. You could get 110 calls and hope that area holds, or you can just wait and see if we get to 195 and then buy puts off the open. That's probably what I'm going to do. I don't know what contracts cost. I didn't look at this stock, but I would kind of guess that we're just kind of flagging, right? And you're going to get a pretty good move up to 180 area, 184 to 195. So you could buy some calls somewhere up here and just for small, keep it under 50 bucks and see what happens. And if we open at 195, short that thing right off the open. That's how I look at earnings. I don't care about PE or any of that stuff. All you look at is where are the orders. The orders are right here, they're right here, they're right here. That's where the orders are. Is it going to get above 195? No, I highly doubt it. So if you want to sell 195 and higher calls, sell them. That would be a great idea. I'm spending too much time again. I said this was going to be short. I said I would talk about uranium. Let's look at URA real quick. So this guy's looking pretty good to me. It's actually the same pattern we're looking at robot stocks, right? We've been in this horrible bearish downtrend. You know, I mean, just wicked down move. And now we're getting back above the 50. And we also have a lot of volume coming in. We don't really have an ending move yet. That was kind of one, and it failed. So, you know, we'll see what that does. But we've had this line on our chart, you know, since right here. No, that was 2017. Since right here, this first pivot, 2021. Yeah, that's when we started looking at this. When this resistance became support. And so on Friday, we bought in small. And I'll probably start adding, you know, anything down to here. They could even get down to here and fill this gap. That'd be a nice entry, 1650 area, 1630 area. Start adding into URA, uranium stocks, and look for a good move higher. So at the same time, you know, I don't know how this is going to work because we've never seen uranium like this for this long. But if you look at the dollar, at the same time, if the dollar holds this area, and this is a really important line, this 101 area, because if you go back to like way back here, I mean, look how important this line has been in the 70s and the end of the, you know, the 90s. Resistance, 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 resistance. If that sucker is support, that's going to trigger the recession. If this starts to break back up, you know, look at 2000 tech bubble, right? It was resistance until they broke out, and we had a 2000 tech bubble, right? So 2008, I'm not sure what happened there. We just got too oversold, and that could have caused some stuff. But anyway, it would be really interesting to see if this holds. If you look at it on the daily, that's on the monthly chart. But if you look at it on the daily chart, right, we have support, support, support. And every time they drop under this line, they buy it right back up. So it would be safe to say if they get anywhere under this line, you know, buy it for a move back at least to the 50. But it looks like it's turning around. It looks like it's it's got a double bottom, and it's gonna push higher. So if the dollar pushes higher, stocks go down and gold goes down. Gold is interesting because you got just this whole area is resistance. So we could wake up one day and just be up here, and then gold just takes off. But I kind of thinking this whole recession thing's starting to play out even more. And I said that a couple weeks ago. I said recession 4 to 5 weeks. So we're coming in our third week now. So we got a couple more weeks to go. But it would be interesting to see gold climb back up, do that, and go. But I assume it's just gonna break down because we still have a high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, right? This area down here. 135. We shorted gold on Friday just to see if it break 182. So let's look at the daily chart here. GLD short can work. I don't know if that's gonna work because it'll just come down here and bounce, right? So you got a new area of support down here at 182. So it'll come down to 182. That's almost a given. It's going to come down, but it might bounce. So we'll see what gold does. Gold does on Monday. If we open below this area, that would be nice because that would confirm our high or lower high. So breaking below this 181 area would be good for a move lower. GLD, watch that short. Watch out for a spike higher. But whatever. Let's see if we got any events coming up. Monday, nothing. Tuesday, home sales and consumer confidence at 10 a.m. Let's look at VNQ real quick. Home sales. We're just in higher, we're just in lower highs, lower lows, right? There's nothing really important here. So we kind of have a higher high here, so that'll be interesting. On the larger scale, we've got some support in this area. Support. We got below it for COVID, but we ripped it back up. So here's something that's kind of interesting. Is this might be telling because check this out. So you got the 50. There's a couple things here. You got the 50 going right here, and it's support. Now it's resistance, right? So you can see a pretty wicked housing dump coming out of here, out of this bear flag, right? So it's two reasons for bear. You're under the 50, and that was resistance on the monthly. You got a bear flag, right? You got a red candle tail that will likely refill. This one never refilled yet. So, that would be really interesting to see that break down. And especially if we lost the 72 area, that could be a pretty big sign. We've got volume here, this volume spike. That's interesting. That was on the break of the bear flag. So I would think that if those were buyers, we would have already been back up in this channel, right? So they're sellers because we broke down and we've continued lower. So that was a breakdown volume. That was a breakout volume, whatever you want to call it. Not reversal volume. That was continuation volume. So yeah, let's look for VNQ short. That's a good idea. Going into Tuesday, it would be worth testing this area, this area right here. See, this is support. This is support. This has been support. So they're likely going to retest this 77, 76 area. So that's a small win. That'd be a small win, 82 to 76. But it's looking pretty rough to me. So let's try that one, VNQ. That's Tuesday, Wednesday, Nothing, I mean, crazy. They got some morning stuff that they might move the market on. Thursday, GDP, jobs, pending home sales. You know, Friday, uh, I don't know. Nothing earth shattering next week, so it might be kind of dull. Next week, major reports. Interest rate. Here it is. May 3rd, interest rate statement. So that could be the bottom we talked about on SPY, finding a bottom around the 2nd to the 6th. So we could see that. Let's plan on a move lower, and see if we get to 39.30 by the 6th, by the 3rd, and see if they can put in a lower low. But even if not, they're gonna pull back here. This is still holding for right now, so they could get a little higher, but and what's interesting, again, last thing we talked about, well, I got two things, but one last thing about SPY was we talked about, these were huge candles, big swings both directions, right? And here we're just chopping on small candles. We had a big one there. Remember this thing? We had big candle there, but most of this is pretty small, tight movement. So all that news that came out last week, Thursday and Friday, and we didn't hardly move, that energy is still in there. This kind of energy is in this size of candles right now, and futures haven't hardly moved much. They're down a little bit, but remember, there's still a big move building energy in this area. So we could get a move up, or we could get a move down, right, to that 39.40 area. So let's keep that in mind. Last thing, I had an idea. Some interesting stocks. Ford is interesting. Here's compare this to two stocks. Watch this. So you got this, right? Ford is interesting, and this might be a swing play. Probably not going to happen this week, but there's two things. So this is either bullish because we're just going to break up, and your stock to compare that to was Apple the other day. I said on Wednesday or Thursday, whatever day that was, here's the same exact pattern, right? They're patterns because they happen. So here's that same pattern that Ford is in right now, right? And I said it looks kind of bullish because they got down here and they just keep putting in a bottom, and so they popped higher. So we can say, Ford getting above this area here, that's pretty bullish. At the same time, you take this same exact pattern and you look at Bed Bath & Beyond, and they had a rough time. If you look at this one, this is pretty wicked. They had the similar thing going on here, where the bottom was supposedly found, right? And then what did they do? They just dumped. So they hit the stop. They hit everybody's stop loss, and they've had a horrible time. From 70 cents to 23 cents. So they've lost, a ton. So keep Ford on watch. Ford will be interesting. And then the last one I wanted to talk about was SPCE. This is more of a conspiracy theory. So let's compare these charts real quick. If you would look at the weekly of SPCE, space, or Virgin Galactic, I mean. So this was a pretty good meme stock, right? We have 1, 2, came down, we broke the lows, we had some volume when we did that, and it's just kind of hanging out. It's just kind of moving. So this will be interesting to keep on watch. I want to bring this up now because in a few months, few weeks maybe, this could be a pretty legit move back up to the 60 area or higher. And the reason I say that is because the same kind of pattern, let's see if I can do this. Yeah, let's check this out. Why will not let me do that? Will not let me look at two different stocks at the same time. I don't know. I'm too tired. Too tired to worry about this. But anyway, look at this here. GameStop, when it reversed, it had the same exact things going on. So we had 1, 2, right? And then we broke the low from IPO. We broke that low, and then we got above the 50. And just to compare this, keep this one. I think it might be worth watching for the next few weeks. Now this is a weekly. Was this a weekly chart? So yeah, it might be a while. But you know, compare these charts and kind of look at what they did. You have this like big down move off the 50, a bounce, a double test, then they broke out, and then they kind of ripped, and then they held that level, and that was the new bottom. And so what I'm looking for in this one is they kind of have this area going, and they've got earnings coming up on May 9th, I think it is. And I'd kind of like to see, you know, a big drop, and then they buy it right back up. And that'll be our sign to start loading SPCE for another move up to 60 or even higher. Because as you saw, GME, you know, they have the same pattern, same idea. You have these like two tops, and then they break down and drop. All the sellers are out. There's nobody left except buyers, and we're kind of at that same area. So, you know, keep SPC on watch, and if you do that, you know, I don't know, that'd be interesting. Let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, we'll call it a night. Thanks, guys.